to be doing the Clinitest or the copper reduction test, and it's in your lab manual on page 19. And so these are our reducing substances tests. So we call this the Clinitest, but the Clinitest is actually the brand name, kind of like Kleenex is to facial tissue, and they don't even make it anymore. And so we use these Ames tabs reducing substance tablets. So when you open up the box, you can see they come in little foil packs. That's how we keep them nice and dry and safe to use. And then for this, we're going to need a little bit of water and then a blank tube. You're going to go with the bigger ones. So you can see here, I've got my deionized water, and you can see I have it labeled. You never just want anything in a test tube rack with something in it not labeled. So you're always, always, always going to do the labeling. Okay, so I grab my marker and I'm gonna put on here. So this is, I'm just gonna put the last name because we're not saving this for any length of time. I can just put the last name. Now, if this was a serum or a plasma that I was pouring off, I'd have to put the last name, first name, MR number, date and time of draw, and the phlebotomist initials, just like everything else. But this is a test, I'm gonna be doing it, and I'm gonna be getting rid of this, so I don't have to worry about it. So I've got my test tube rack in front of me here, and I'm gonna follow the instructions in my manual. We're gonna start with the 5-drop method. You can see on this page, we got the 2-drop method on this side and the 5-drop. Make sure when you're reading the colors that you read the right side of it. So I'm gonna do the 5-drop method. Place 5 drops of urine into a test tube. So I got my pipette. This is my clean test tube. 5 drops of urine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Never, ever, ever throw away any urine. Like if you have extra urine, put it back into the cup. Never just waste it. Then I'm going to add 10 drops of distilled water to my tube. So here's my distilled water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now you notice I always hold the pipette at a 45-degree angle whenever I'm doing any pipetting. That's just good standard practice to get into. When we get to blood bank, it's mandatory, it's necessary for testing, but for us, it's just good practice. So I'm just gonna give that a little swirl, make sure I got it nice and mixed up. And we're gonna take the Clinitest, I'm gonna tear the open, and I'm going to put it, if you need to, I did bring some forceps over. If you need to do it with a forceps, you can do it, or you can just pour it. Where is the tablet? It's in there, here it is. So it looks like a little certs. If those little dots are like a crazy blue color, I'm trying to get it focused there for you, really dark, we don't want it, but that's perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna drop it in. Now when I drop it in, there's gonna be boiling that's gonna occur. We're going to let it go, and when the boiling stops, we're gonna wait 15 seconds before we actually do the reading, before we read it. So what we wanna do, I'm gonna hold it up and show you, but when it's actually boiling, you're not gonna wanna touch the bottom, you're gonna wanna touch the top. So I'm gonna drop it in. Whoops. Okay, so you can see there it starts boiling. Now the bottom of this, during this boiling, starts getting really, really hot. So you wanna make sure you're not holding it down there or you'll drop it. So just give it a few minutes. It's not quite settled right. So it starts there, but it'll start, the exothermic reaction will start here in just a minute or two here. Here it goes, here it's starting. And what you're watching for is the color change. There it goes. See that boil? Now, see how crazy orange it's getting? So you want to watch that because we're watching for what's called a pass-through, and then it's going to go back to normal. So now I'm going to wait 15 seconds before I mix it. Okay, I think that's right about 15 seconds. So I'm gonna look and I'm gonna compare to the colors I've got. I'm gonna give it a little mix and compare it. So you can see it's still pretty orange here. So because of that, it's greater than 2,000 milligrams per deciliter or greater than 2%. because it's going to be the closest color. Now, when you get that high, what you'll end up doing oftentimes is following it up with a 2-drop method, in which case you can follow through in your manual. But for this is the main purpose I'm showing you. I'm going to stop there. So I'm going to go back over here to my paper. Now, this is not an official confirmatory test for glucose, but we're going to call it the Clinitest, and we're going to say greater than or equal to 2,000 milligrams per deciliter because it matched that orange. Now, if you look, you can see the glucose was greater than or equal to 2,000 milligrams also, so that does line up. The primary reason for doing the Clinitest is not to verify sugar. If the sugar shows up here in the glucose oxidase, it's way more sensitive and way better than doing a Clinitest. The Clinitest is particularly looking for other reducing substances other than glucose, because we got a good glucose test right here. This is to look for those other things that might be causing it. So the primary one we're looking for is galactosemia, because that's going to be an issue for a lot of young kids and failure to thrive if they don't get their newborn screens. Now that we have more and more people doing newborn screens, they don't do this as often in the labs, but it used to be every time somebody came in under the age of 2, we would automatically do one of these tests.